Idly ho, drinkerinos. This is the Idaho Booze Podcast, and I am your host, Steve Coots. Today's episode is jam-packed. We've got Andy Koenig from Koenig Distillery on to talk about all things distilling, including why he started making booze, how brandy is the water of life, and what goes into making such great vodka and whiskey. We're starting to see some Oktoberfests out there in the wild, and we'll review a few of those on Friday Night Pints. A major player in the weed business, buying up more breweries. We have shots infused with bugs and fucking fires in brew news. But first, we've got to talk about what the hell is happening to local breweries. Their numbers are down. Everybody claims to love supporting local, but numbers are still down at local breweries, so we'll find out what's going on there. Plus, what we here at the podcast are doing to help. That's all coming up next on the Idaho Booze Podcast. This show is sponsored by Boise Beer Buddies. When me and my friends are chopping it up at the local watering hole, say Green Apple Tap House, Twin Falls Sandwich Company, or Bert's Growler Garage, I'm always watching the bar to see what people are ordering and if they are carrying their Boise Beer Buddies card. Because if you do frequent pretty much any craft beer bar or brewery in and around Idaho and you aren't using the Beer Buddies card, then we probably can't be friends. The Beer Buddies card doesn't just unlock amazing deals, like get this, $1 off your first beer at Bert's, 20% off your entire bill at Twin Falls Sandwich Company, or BOGO Tuesdays at Boise Brewing. It also unlocks an entire world of craft beerdom with the Boise Beer Buddies app by showing you other bars, restaurants, and breweries where you can be saving money and making new friends like me. Let's face it, you're already buying beer. Now be a buddy. Get your Boise Beer Buddies membership today at boisebeerbuddies.com, and as a special treat, use promo code BOOZEPOD, all one word, BOOZEPOD, and get a free year-long membership when you purchase one. That's a BOGO. Promo code BOOZEPOD. Be a buddy. Sign up for Boise Beer Buddies today. Welcome back. Well, to say it's been sort of a shitty 2024 for local brew pubs is putting it lightly, I would say. We had Edge go out of business. Even though Western Collective bought up the brand names, that pub is gone. No more fried pickles, no Edge fries, no grown-up grilled cheese. All gone. I don't even know where Bradford ended up. If you see Bradford anywhere, please tell him we're looking for him. Email the show. Let me know where Bradford is, please. I worry. Edge was surviving on its pub, as far as I know, because it had really stopped trying to distribute beer outside of Boise probably the last 4 or 5, 6 years, something like that. This is a reality for a lot of breweries here, and it's for a lot of reasons, but it is the reality. Not really going to get into the reasons why breweries here have such a hard time getting outside of Boise. That's another show, I think, for another time. But it is difficult overall to get people outside of your local area excited about your beer. You can see why Boise Brewing would have a rough time getting traction in Idaho Falls or Pocatello, Coeur d'Alene, right? The beer's great, but just by assigning geographical location to it, you make it more difficult to sell outside of that area. Payette Brewing, once the largest brewery in Idaho, just had to merge with Upslope from Boulder to keep going. But at least they were able to come up with a creative way to stay afloat, because other places went out of business. Twisted District, they're out, even though it seemed like they had a good crowd in there. And they had plans to expand, from what I heard. It sucks that they went out of business, because it was another kind of cool place in Garden City where one could go to hang out and have some beers and have some food. Their food was really good. I went there once or twice, and food was good. The beers are fine. It wasn't like it was making a terrible product or anything, but they went out of business claiming that they just didn't have enough local support. Idlewild Brewing went out of business just a little while ago. What they said on their Facebook posts was just too hard to keep the lights on. And the co-owners had to work other jobs. They wanted to start having, or they just had children, or they wanted to start having children, something like that. And it just wasn't adding up. They were putting a lot of sweat equity and hours into the brewery, and it just wasn't coming back. And I totally get that. Opening a local business, I think, should be your full-time job. But for some reason in this landscape, it's almost impossible to quit your real job to pursue your dream job. And this reality sucks. It really does. And I see it a lot with a lot of different people trying to get out there and hustle and do their thing. And it's not that they're not working hard enough or that they don't have a good product. It's just that they're not getting the same kind of support that they would expect to get from the community. And that's basically what the breweries are saying here. I mean, if somebody is willing to take out bank loans and rent some space or buy some land and pay a shitload of money to fill that space with tanks and kettles and tables and bar tabs and staff, and then get enough ingredients together to make a decent product, then the reward should be in the form of your dream becoming your real job, where you take a brewery let's just go back to Edge real quick. Their beer was good. I'd gone there a few times before they closed, and I thought Brian was doing a hell of a job. His beers were tasty. I thought Meowthrow was really good. They had beers out in the market at Albertsons. They had obligatory Meowthrow, Pugzilla, Huckleberry Cider. They had at least 4 in the Albertsons set. That should be enough right there. So you got to look back and think, what's going on? Why are these places going out of business? And, we have some theories and we have some, anecdotal things like, people are shopping big box, or a lot of people like to blame Amazon. Oh, it's Amazon. But the facts are that, people are out there making a decent product for us to gravitate towards. And a lot of people around, when it's like First Thursday and they're getting free pours of beer, say they want to shop local. Oh yeah, we shop local, but they just aren't. That's a fact. People are overwhelmingly telling, pollsters or whoever else that they want to shop local, that they are shopping local, but they're just not. And it's in the proof is in the pudding. More people are buying food from big box stores instead of maybe farmers markets or whatever. Restaurant chains are staying in business. You see, lines outside of Olive Garden while local restaurants are going out of business, which is insane. Maybe it's a lot of people have a thing where it might cost too much to go to a local restaurant. I don't think that's the case. I go to local restaurants. It doesn't cost any more or less. Last time I went to an Olive Garden, it was like $100 for 4 people for, salty spaghetti and greasy buns. It's just not worth it to me. If it's worth it to you, fine, but not to me. And the biggest thing for this show is people continue to buy yellow beer. And we all thought that when Budweiser decided to hire a transgender person to sell Bud Light, we all thought that might be the end of Big Yellow Beer, but it wasn't. They now the number one beer in America is Modelo, which is, you can say all you want. It's a tasty beer. I don't mind Modelo every now and then, but it is Big Yellow. And then after that, Michelob Ultra, which is Bud Light, same company, basically the same beer, maybe a little less body, a little less flavor, but it's the same beer. So people are still buying Big Yellow. People are still hitting up restaurant chains instead of going local. People are still shopping big box stores instead of hitting up local farmers markets or local grocery stores. Well, friends, I'm here to tell you that's just not going to stand. I set out with the column, then the book, then another column, and now this podcast to help change the way people think and act about local beer, wine, and spirits. There's a reason why beer tastes better when you have it at the brewery. Beer is perishable. It's not forever. You can't just throw beer in the fridge and have it sit there forever and it'll be the same. It's not. And when you have it at the pub, it doesn't get shipped anywhere. It doesn't get manipulated. It doesn't get thrown in a box truck. It doesn't get sat on a loading dock. It doesn't, all these other things that can go wrong when beer is shipped. You would go crazy if you knew. So the reason why me and other beer nerds are like that lady in Clerks when we're checking dates on IPAs is because that's the only thing we can control. We can't control if the beer was shipped in a non-refrigerated truck. We can't control if it sat on a loading dock. We can't control if it sat in the loading area at the grocery store for a day and a half in the sun. We can't control any of that. It shows you that beer is perishable. Hops they're a preservative, but the flavor in them, the oils and everything in there is only going to last so long. So when you have it at the pub, when it doesn't get shipped anywhere, when it's not manipulated, when it's served by the people the way they want it served, that's when beer tastes the best. I have a buddy who owns a brewery in Salt Lake, Kevin Templin. He's kind of wild. He's a great dude and makes amazing beer. If you're ever down there, hit up his brewery, Templin Family Brewing. But he has a different shaped glass. He has a different vessel for almost every single beer that he puts out. And he's put out, 50 beers, probably. maybe 45, 50, I don't know how many beers, but he has a different shaped glass for just about every single kind of beer. So he has like a Pilsner glass, and then he has a Helles glass, and he has a specialty lager glass, and he has an IPA glass. And it's just great. I love it because I get it. And why does he do that? Well, because he believes that it tastes better in those vessels than in anything else. And I don't know if he still does this. He can tell me. I doubt he listens, but if he does, he can tell me. But I heard that he even challenges his off-premise customers to buy glassware from him if they want to serve his beer, which is great. And every brewer that's listening to this right now is shaking their head like, yes, that sounds awesome. Why does he do it? Because he wants you to taste his beers the way he feels they are best tasted. He wants you to appreciate them the way he appreciates them. And that's what it's all about when you choose local over big box or restaurant chains or anything like that. You get people who care about their product, and they care about it so much that they're willing to go out and put different glassware out there. They're willing to tell you when to enjoy it. They're willing to do these things that make it that much more special for you. And so if you have to pay a little bit more, you have to pay a little bit more. I understand that the economy is weird right now. I get it. But for some of these things, this all comes from, you may have seen this if you live in the Boise area. If you don't, I will kind of give you the long and short of it. Boise Brewing, co-owner and co-founder, Colin Redeen, friend of the show, nice guy, really great guy, told Michael Deeds at the Idaho Statesman that people aren't excited about craft beer anymore. He said local breweries always put on a good face, but none of us say out loud that business is suffering and that sales are down and things are not looking so great financially. That's a lot. That's a big statement from a guy who's running an awesome brewery. And let me just read it to you again. Let me break that down for you. Colin Redeen was a great guy. Like I said, good friend of the community, good friend of the show, good friend of me. Every time I see him, just the nicest guy. He's saying to you and all the Statesman's readers out there that people aren't excited about craft beer anymore, and that local breweries who do not want to drive any business away by being whiny or, complaining about their customers or complaining about people who aren't even their customers. So they, quote, put on a good face and, quote, none of us say out loud that business is suffering, end quote. That's really sad. Boise Brewing, I'll tell you this, Boise Brewing has done everything the right way. Their beer has won a bunch of awards. Lance, Lindley, their brewing team, always excellent. Bartenders that are there, awesome. So they've won a bunch of awards, including multiple GABF awards. They might have the most GABF awards of any brewery in the state. Sockeye might have more just because they've been around longer. But Boise Brewing, they kick ass. Their beers are really good. Their tasting room in the brewery combines a nice ambiance with friendly bartenders, excellent beers. They're community owned, which means they have a great group of investors who get that mug on the wall. They get discounted beer. And they not only patronize the business, but act as influencers out there to everyone else. If you find a Boise Brewing community owner, they'll talk to you about Boise Brewing. Believe me. They recently opened a restaurant. The food is delicious, not that expensive, about the same as everywhere else, to go with their outstanding beers. They have nice t-shirts. Their merch is great. They have 6-packs on store shelves all over the Treasure Valley. They're doing everything right. They are doing everything right. And Colin is telling you here in this article that it isn't enough. They need more customers. Payette, instead of coming out and saying it out loud, and they put out their Facebook post about the merger with Upslope. Paige was nice enough to send us some information and from inside the Payette walls down there on River Road. Mike Francis gave Boise Dev an interview about it, saying the same thing as Paige. So doing a good job of towing the company line, which they should, since they're basically the owners and operators. Payette Brewing. Once the biggest brewery, the biggest production brewery in the state, Payette Brewing is telling you that there aren't enough customers by doing this merger. They're yelling it. They're screaming it. We don't have enough customers. There's not enough money. Sockeye Brewing just opened a new ale house on 36th Street. And I don't know if you follow them on Facebook. You should. If you don't, go ahead, give them a follow. They're doing new events every single week. Tyson and his team over there are working their asses off to put on events on Wednesdays and Thursdays traditionally, Tuesdays, Wednesday, Thursday, traditionally when you're a little bit slower than the rest of the week, to bring more people in. These places need more customers. They need more help. So we're going to act. I will put it out to all the brew pubs, wineries, tasting rooms, craft beer bars, craft cocktail lounges, anyone that pushes local. I want to help. Let's get people together. I can do live podcasts at your locations. I'd love to do something once a month or more at different locations throughout the state. I'll travel to you. Just have a comfy chair and a glass of beer or wine or cocktail ready, and I'll do a full live show at your place. That's an opening rant. That's brew news. That's a live interview. Friday night pints, and we'll even do questions from the audience. I will provide that. We will get a crowd and hopefully get you guys some more customers. I hear you loud and clear. I have a backpack, I have a laptop, I have microphones, and my truck is full of gas. You know where to find me. Coming up, I know this is a lot, but this week's show is a keeper. You're going to want to download and save this one. Andy Koenig from Koenig Distillery is on the show today, and you will absolutely love his story and the hows and whys he got into distilling, the process they use at Koenig, which is amazing. Distilling to me is, I just love it. I mentioned it about 10 times. I'm just like, wow, how does that work? So how do they produce their potato vodka, their old Boise gin, Seven Devils whiskey, the brandy line? We do a deep dive into the brandy program. Why I found that so interesting and why I think you will as well. And then later on in the program, we have Friday Night Pints. It's beginning to look a lot like fall. Several domestic Oktoberfests are hitting the taps and shelves. See which ones I found to capture the Schadenfreude of my favorite seasonal. All that and more coming up on the Idaho Booze Podcast. The show is brought to you by Like Button and LikeButton.us. You own a company and it just made a sale. Congratulations. But do you know how much money you spent to get that sale? Did that customer just walk in the door to escape the blazing heat, or were they fed ads on their favorite mobile game, then on social media, then on Google, then on their streaming service before they decided to visit you? So how much did you spend to get that customer? At Like Button, we will not only set up a proven sales funnel that will generate leads, but with our unbeatable transparency, you will know exactly how much you spent to acquire that customer. Then Like Button will optimize so the next customers you get come in cheaper, so more money ends up in your pocket. Stop wasting money on ads that don't generate more money for you. Get back to doing what you love and let Like Button do the rest. Go to likebutton.us and sign up for a free consultation today. That's likebutton.us. It's Brew News. Let's see. Lots going on this week in Brew News. Idaho Brewers United has some fun events they want you to know about coming up. They wanted me to pass those on to you, so here we go. The Bikes, Brews, and Bluegrass event at Tamarack Resort up north takes place on September 1st. I didn't get any other information about this other than it's called Bikes, Brews, and Bluegrass. So I assume you're going to have a bike ride with beer and blues music at the end. That's at least sounds like to me. Sounds like fun. So check that out. September 1st up at Tamarack. And then we have Destination Colin Beer is back. Yet another event that happens up in the mountains. This one I have been to and do know a lot about. Super fun. Involves some amazing food, great beers, and lots of snow. Not the Deadpool type of snow. Wink. But like real snow. And it's in McCall in the winter, so bundle up. But for now, just worry about buying tickets. They go on sale September 16th. You want to get them before they sell out. You can find those events and more on idahobrewers.org. What else? Flipping through brew news here. Oh, looks like our friends of the brewery, Jimbo, back here. Let's see. The brewery sold a bunch of Black Yeti cups in Meridian. This is in Meridian. And if you have one of those Brewery Black Yeti cup owners, your time has come today, right today, Friday, to August 23rd. You can get those Yeti cups filled straight from the barrel. Ooh, that's awesome. Whoa, those barrel beers are good. That sounds amazing. If you haven't purchased a Black Yeti cup from the brewery, they are sold out, but they do say more are on the way. So those lucky few that picked one up, get over there right now as you're listening to this and get those things filled to the brim with the barrel beer. I got to try the barrel beer, and I got to tell you, it is pretty awesome. Normally with barrel beers, you get one or two weirdos, but these ones all good. So if you like stout, get that. So happens it's Tuesday. There's 2 versions of it. I think there's also another stout. It's only logical, which is really great. If you like Belgians, that Midnight in Bruges, oh, fantastic beer. Just bright and flavorful. Just, with that barrel coming through. Yeah, get that. Or if you want to do something a little crazy, you want to get nuts, let's get nuts. Get the double mash, that barley wine. That'll set you straight. I'm just wondering if Jimbo will fill up one of the 10 Yeti cups me and my wife have stashed all around the house and in both of our cars. I'll have to see if he will. He's a friend of the show. Maybe he'll help us out. If you have one of those Brewery Black Yeti cups, get down there today and get those things filled up. Oh, in big, sticky, icky beer news, looks like Hop Valley is switching up Canadian overlords as Molson Coors has decided to jump ship on carrying craft brands. Tilray, our old friends Tilray, that up-and-coming Canadian cannabis corporation, snatched up 4 more craft breweries, Terrapin, Revolver, Atwater, and Pacific Northwest brand Hop Valley Brewing. This puts Tilray, sorry, eh? This puts Tilray as one of, if not the biggest purveyor of craft brands in the country. These new additions, coupled with the brands they bought up from Papa Bud last year, along with a huge stake in legal marijuana, means that Tilray is now the El Jefe when it comes to making people feel good. Still haven't really seen any news or subtle hints or anything that these big cannabis Canucks are getting into craft beer to change the game or keep things moving per usual. But I'm keeping my ears and my squinty little eyes open on the story as it develops. Till then, good for Hop Valley to get out from under Molson Coors. We would all rather be under Big Green than Big Yellow, am I right? And this is sad news. Sad brew news. I don't like sad brew news. I think we can all agree on the following statement. Fuck these fires. Fuck them. Right out of town. Fuck them. They have wrought havoc across the northern part of our beautiful state, and the air sucks. They've done all this stuff. The air is worse than Salt Lake in December because of these stupid, dumb fires. But now they've gone too far. Coulter's Creek Winery outside Moscow destroyed a week ago, maybe like 2 weeks ago, by the Gwen Fire when it tore through the lower Potlatch River Canyon. This is near Julietta, kind of outside of Moscow. The owner, Mike Pearson, told the Idaho State Journal that the whole production facility is destroyed, along with about 25,000 cases of vino. Ugh. And they do not plan to rebuild. So, sad news for Mike, Coulter Creek fans, and everyone in the Idaho wine industry. We wish you all the best moving forward, Mike. Please reach out if you need anything at all. Yeah, fucking fires, man. And if that story didn't already make you sick, this one will for sure. Some brewery outside of Chicago. I'm not going to name them because they are not getting publicity here. They heard the cicadas. Is it cicada or cicada? Have we decided on that? Cicada? I think cicada. They heard the cicadas outside and thought, this could be our chance to turn these giant noisy bugs into some cold hard cash. What'd they do? They put those bugs into possibly the worst liquor imaginable. We've talked about it on the show, Malort. They infused Malort with cicadas. I mean, that's the noise I make if someone offers me a Malort shot anyway. You give me a Malort shot infused with a giant ancient bug? No. They bill it as a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. You know what else is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity? I don't know. Being in a giant fiery auto wreck. That's a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Having your body destroyed by a speeding freight train. Once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Along with cicada-infused Malort. Ugh. So the shot combines 13 and 17-year cicadas in what can only be described. Ugh. God, it's just so gross. Why would you do that? So we have some good news here. In what can only be described as poetic justice meets real justice, the Illinois Liquor Board, which let's say, has a spotty record on busting bad guys. Not a great job over there at the Illinois Liquor Board, especially in the 30s. Look it up. They came down hard on the brewery and sales stopped after just 9 days. The brewery released a post on Facebook saying it was a wild ride. Yeah, a wild ride, with the last stop being Vomit Town. Ugh, gross. Anyway, that's brew news for this week. Coming up, our interview with Andy Koenig at Koenig Distillery. We talk all things distillation, including their whiskey program, their vodka program, and their really super interesting brandy program. How that all got started, where he found the inspiration to do all that fun stuff, and what they're doing in the future, including some breaking news from Koenig. So that's going to be really exciting. So stay tuned for that. Plus, we have Friday Night Pints coming up, where we review Octos on the horizon. It's Octo time, everybody. Jawohl. Octos. It's my favorite time of the year. I love fall beers. So we'll have those Octos. Plus, we're going to review a whiskey from Koenig. So that'll be a lot of fun. Coming up next, Andy Koenig and Friday Night Pints. Next on the Idaho Booze Podcast. This week's Brew News brought to you by Like Button. You, a multifaceted entrepreneur newly invested in a struggling startup, needs organic and paid growth through lead generation marketing, but you're on your own and can't yet afford a marketing department or a big agency. What do? Go to likebutton.us and pick from several package options that utilize organic social media marketing, paid Google ads, SEO strategy, and more for just a fraction of what you would pay a fully staffed marketing department. For as little as $2,000 a month, you get amazing results and boost your new business to greater heights. Go to likebutton.us today and start growing your business with Like Button. I am here with Koenig Distillery's head distiller, Andy Koenig. Andy, how's it going?
Great. Thanks for having me.
Hey, thank you for having me.
Yeah.
I'm at your house.
Yeah, well, welcome.
Thanks. So we are here at Koenig Distillery. It's just a gorgeous land. How many acres would you say are out there right now?
So we own 75 acres here at the distillery, which we acquired 30 years ago this year.
And now we're sitting here I guess this is the visitor area?
Yeah, so this is our tasting room that we're sitting in, and this building was actually built just 3 years ago. So it's a brand new tasting room and retail store.
You don't have to mow this acreage. This is all pretty built up with different sort of trees and stuff like that. What all are we growing out here at Koenig?
So when we first started here, it was row crops and hay. And we established all these orchards that are around the distillery. There's about 20 acres of fruit trees and some wine grapes here as well. And then the other acreage is dedicated for like corn production, wheat, hay, row crops, and that kind of stuff.
Nice. And how many of these kind of crops and stuff do you use in your distillates and in your the alcohol that you make here?
So all of our fruit that we use for our vodka production, for our brandy production, most of it comes all from right here on this site. So within a couple hundred yards of the distillery, we do buy some additional fruit from some of the neighbors, but everything for the brandy production is pretty much within 3 or 4 miles of the distillery here.
Wow, that is impressive, because that includes what we're talking: peaches, cherries, pears.
Yeah, so we make 4 kinds of the fruit brandies, which is what we started with originally. When we opened in 1999, it was apricot brandy, plum brandy, cherry brandy, and pear. So those were the 4 brandies that we produced when we first opened.
And this was you just sort of goofing around making brandy, thinking that, I had a few people coming over this weekend, I might as well make some brandy? Or how did you actually become like a distillery and start on this path towards making all these wonderful alcohol?
Well, it's kind of a long story, but originally my dad was from Austria. And in Austria, they make a lot of fruit brandies. They make a lot of them. They have different liquor laws there where you can do a little bit of brandy for yourself, for your own production. If you have a few fruit trees in your backyard, and you would ferment the fruit, and then a guy with a little mobile still would come to your backyard and distill them for you.
Like a hot dog wagon.
Kind of, yeah. It looked just like a hot dog wagon, actually. And people would come and distill your fruit for you, and you could do that for your own consumption. And when we were kids, my dad took us back to Austria to live for 3 years when we were kids.
Wow.
And so we kind of, got to see the culture. And I was always intrigued by this, mobile still coming to your backyard and making brandy in your backyard. And then when I finished, we came back then, went to high school, and then eventually I went to the university for agribusiness. And after that, I decided I wanted to do an apprenticeship in Austria, which we had a family connection for. So I worked at a distillery that has been there for 400 years in the same spot. Wow. And same family and everything. And they specialized in making these European-style brandies. So that's kind of how the distillery started. We came back here, we planted these fruit trees on this farm and started from scratch, basically. And the distillery opened in 1999. So this is our 25th year.
Wow, congratulations.
Yes, we survived so far.
25 years of brandy, not too bad. And so is this your family farm out here?
No, this wasn't our family farm. This one we purchased. But my mother grew up on a homestead, actually, between Meridian and Cuna, on a little dairy over there. And my uncle still lives over there. And so she kind of was familiar with this area. That's why we decided to buy a farm in this area, because we liked the Sunny Slope so much for the fruit production, the wine production, and of course the views, and a beautiful area. So.
You couldn't ask for better views. Coming out here, driving out here, I've noticed just how beautiful, especially when you come down Highway 55 and you go kind of over the ridge, and then you see this valley out in front of you. You can see, I guess, are those the Owyhee Mountains?
Yep, those are the Owyhees that you pretty much have a panoramic view of. So
gorgeous. I bet coming to work is really tough for you every day.
Yeah, it's a tough deal, and it's a short commute. I just live up the street here.
Oh, is that right?
So I can actually walk to work if I weren't so lazy.
Well, we need you to be in tip-top shape when you get to work, because we need all those wonderful beverages that you're producing back there in the still. So kind of just to keep talking about brandy, I'm glad you mentioned that. I was really interested in the brandy because it's something that not everybody makes. I imagine you're one of maybe, I can't even put 2 distillers here in the state that make brandy. I can't even think of another one. I'm just saying 2 because I think there might be 2.
There's a few spread across the country, but it's a very small niche kind of market, and it's a specialty product. It's kind of European, has European roots to it. So they're dry fruit brandies. They're not something that's sweet like most Americans are used to, but it's a niche thing, and it's a specialty item, kind of more meant for after dinner drinking, just a little sip, as a kind of a digestive, I guess you'd call it.
So when I think of brandy, I think of like the giant bottle of like EO or whatever that stuff is. And what you guys are doing here is a completely different deal. It's made from whole fruit. It's distilled right here in Caldwell. It's sort of a more refined version of what, like, maybe even what the cart would make, right? Like, it's something that you've been doing for 25 years. So I imagine the process for it and everything else has kind of grown up with time, right?
Yeah, so most brandy that Americans know, that's made from grapes, like grape brandy, and it's then barrel aged, so it's brown,
like cognac,
or Armagnac, and those are the same kind of products. Cognac has a special name because it's from the Cognac region of France, but American brandy, it's a very similar product, but it's a barrel aged product. These brandies are made from fruit. They're fermented, distilled, but they're not aged in oak, so they're still clear. So that way the aromas and the flavors from the fruit actually come through, and they're not hidden behind the oak, or the oak doesn't flavor them. So in that way they're a little bit different, but same process, fermented fruit, the sugar converts to alcohol and is distilled then.
And you have a special still just for the brandy.
We do. So we have 2 sets of stills in there that we took a look at, and one set is made for the brandies, for the fruit production, and the other stills are for vodka production, which we branched into later as the business grew. And
what would you say is what are the main components of the brandy? Why is there a separate brandy still from the vodka still?
So brandy's distilled at a much lower proof so that you can preserve the flavors and the aromas from the fruit after it was fermented. So it's distilled in copper, and it's distilled maybe to 72 or 74% alcohol.
Yeah.
The vodka stills are much different in the sense that vodka is a neutral product, because it's used for mixing. And it's distilled up to 96.5%. So it has different equipment. It has columns on them that rectify and clean the alcohol to a totally neutral ethanol.
Yep.
So there's no flavor really left in the vodka.
Yeah, the vodka still that you have here, if anyone has ever seen a still, and this is something I love to talk about. I already talked to you about my weird geekdom with it. I'm, as people listening to the podcast probably have figured out, I'm a beer guy. I come from the beer world. I know a lot about beer. I wrote a book about beer. I'm sort of like in that. But for me, spirits is a thing that I love to talk about and I love to discuss, because I think what you do there is you take some sort of mash or distill it or whatever you want to call it, something with sugar in it that's been fermented, something that has alcohol in it already, and then you run it through this giant, super hot column thing, and then you make booze out of it. It's it's like alchemy. It's like turning lead into gold to me. So if you could just explain a little bit about how each of those kind of portholes and columns work, and how you're able to get such a super fine vodka and a really flavorful brandy from those columns. I just don't understand it. Just pretend like you're talking to a fourth grader.
Right.
That's really weirdly into booze.
So, taking it back, so when, for example, the potatoes are fermented for the vodka, right? So they start out as basically a beer. So the process is very similar. It's almost identical to when you're making beer. You're taking grains or potatoes or whatever, you're heating them up, you're adding enzymes which convert the starch to sugar, you're cooling it, and then you're adding yeast to ferment it. So that's very similar to beer.
Gotcha.
The only difference between,
following along perfectly.
So after the beer is made, which is what we would call a mash in the distillery business, it gets pumped into stills, right? And it gets distilled. The way we do it here is the first distillation is where you're basically separating the mash or the beer from the solids and the alcohol. So you're stripping all the alcohol out. It's also called a stripping still or a primary still. So basically we're just separating, so we have liquid and no solids and alcohol. That primary distillate then gets pumped into our other still, or then we rectify the alcohol. And in that process, that's kind of the more tedious process, where you're heating the alcohol back up, and you're separating the good and the bad alcohols from each other. So it's basically a game of boiling points. The lower alcohols boil at lower temperatures. The ethanol boils, which is what we want to keep, the pure ethanol, boils at a certain temperature at 76.5 degrees Celsius. And then we heat the still so that we're pulling just the ethanol out. So in the beginning, the heads come out, which are, lower alcohols that boil at lower temperatures that we don't want, that have bad flavors, and
the stuff that goes into the plastic bottles.
Not even that. That's more a product that goes away, because those are things that can cause some health problems. We save the ethanol, and then the higher alcohols we also discard. So basically we're just trying to get the heart of the distillation out of it, which is the pure ethanol, which is, what's the drinkable alcohol.
The stuff in the middle.
The stuff in the middle, and that's why it's called the hearts of the distillation, the heads, the hearts, and the tails.
The heads, the hearts, and the tails. Couldn't be easier to understand.
Yes, in a nutshell.
Love that. And it's, again, we'll have some pictures of the stills you have down there in the show notes and on the Substack, because it is really neat. I think it's really cool anyway. So these brandies aren't fooling around. These things are 84 proof. They're over 80 proof. Most of the cognacs I've ever had, or most of the Armagnacs I've ever had, and Armagnac, by the way, I do know this, is single grape. That's a single grape cognac.
Yep.
That's something I know. I just want to throw it out there. The one thing I know about cognac is my wife likes French cognac, and Armagnac is single grape.
Okay.
That's what I know. Those are the two things I know. But we're going to get her on our side with the cherry brandy. So these brandies that you're doing are over 80 proof. So why are they over 80 proof? And also, I think plum brandy is kind of unique. I've never seen it before. So what went into deciding to put out a plum brandy?
So the region in Austria where my dad grew up, Austria is surrounded by other countries, right? So naturally, in Eastern Austria, they're famous for apricot production. So they distill a lot of apricots for apricot brandy. If you go further east into the Eastern Bloc countries, that's where a lot of the blue plums or the late Italian plums that we grow are grown in Europe. So those are very popular in the Eastern Bloc. If you go north from Austria into Germany, those are that's kind of more of a cherry and apple region, or into south into northern Italy, that's also a lot of apple production and pears especially. And if you go west from Austria, right across the Rhine River where my dad grew up, that's Switzerland, which also specializes in cherries and a little bit in pears too. So it's kind of a regional thing in the fact that, you know, Austria is in the center of Europe, and so in Austria they distill all kinds of brandies from different regions. But if you were to say one thing was from Austria, it would probably be the apricot brandy.
Okay. And so why decide to do plum brandy here in Idaho?
We did plums. Well, I guess that comes back down to my own personal taste. That's actually one of my favorite brandies that we make here.
Okay.
It has a really nice aroma to it. It was one of my favorites when I was an apprentice in Austria. They had been making it for, you know, centuries there, and it was just kind of one of my favorites. So, and it has a very distinct taste because the skins have a nice flavor to them. They're very tough skins, but they're dark and flavorful, so it makes a nice brandy, and was kind of one of my favorites more than anything, I guess.
Hey, man, well, you're the distiller. You can decide whatever you want to make, and it sounds like you really like the plum, so you went that direction.
Yes.
Love that. That's a great, I think it's an awesome story and a great reason to do something. I mean, that's kind of the thing we do in brewing. Like, we brew it for us, and the rest of you get to try it as well. So I like that. And on each of those bottles, it says, it's a French, some sort of French term. It says eau de vie on the brandy bottles. What does that mean?
Eau de vie, so that's a French word actually, because the French make a lot of brandies too. They make a lot of pear brandy and cherry brandy. So eau de vie is translated into the water of life.
The water of life.
Yes. So,
how great is that?
I don't know if you could survive drinking brandy and not water, but
only one way to find out. I think you need to hire an intern, and we need to find out if this works. We'll get someone in here to see if that's something. So, be honest, and I gotta tell you, I value honesty over almost everything else. Do you guys ever mess around with other brandy flavors? Like, I've had some apple brandy that's pretty good. That was homemade. I've had some blue raspberry moonshine that I think was made from a Jolly Rancher. Any plans to expand the brandy line?
Actually, when we first opened the distillery, we made more brandies than we do today. We actually had a raspberry brandy that was really good. The raspberries came kind of north of Seattle in that region where they grow a lot of raspberries. And that was a really, really good product. The problem with it was it takes almost 80 pounds of raspberries to make one little 375 bottle of raspberry brandy. So it became very expensive, but it was an awesome product.
And one raspberry is about an ounce, maybe?
No, not even.
Even a half ounce? No, one raspberry is like half ounce?
Because the seeds have to come out of them too, which is a third of the
process.
volume. So yeah, it was a very expensive proposition. It made great products. We won several gold medals with it, but it was, at such a high price point that it kind of made it tough to sell. So
any of those bottles hanging around in a closet somewhere?
We have some down in the cellar a little bit, so we might have to break some out at some point.
Raspberry, that does sound really good. And then apple brandy, I mean, you're in the Pacific Northwest, technically, sort of. That might be something to think of. Reach out to our friends at Meriwether, maybe see if you can't get a apple brandy going at some point.
Right, and we're actually considering distilling some apples and aging them to finish them off in some empty bourbon barrels that come off of our bourbon production, where we could just finish them lightly on a bourbon barrel and see how that would turn out.
Nice.
To just kind of tie it to our distillery and to Idaho. So.
Well, color me intrigued. I'm excited. So my wife she's a Courvoisier fan, just to put it out there.
Right.
Not trying to get any sort of, advertising dollars from Courvoisier. If Courvoisier, which is also an eau de vie.
Right.
I'm just kidding. Which one of your brandies would do you think she would like the best if I brought one home and said, surprise, I brought you a brandy?
Probably the most popular, well, the best-selling brandy that we have is actually the pear brandy, just because the pears have such a nice aroma to them. They have such a great flavor. They're soft. So if she likes those kind of brandies, the pear brandy's an exceptional product, and it's our most popular, actually.
Well, joke's on her. I'm getting the plum.
Yes, okay.
That's the one I like. I think sounds the best.
Right.
Hey, if the head distiller likes making it because it's his favorite one, that's the one I'm doing.
That's the one you want. So,
yeah.
All right.
Mama didn't raise no fool. So moving on from the brandy, and thanks a lot. Thank you so much for telling us all about that, because it is really cool. You guys jumped into whiskey, and you have a popular product, Seven Devils Whiskey, which has been out for 10 years, something like that.
10 years this year, yep.
And what do you think sets Seven Devils Whiskey apart from the other Idaho-made whiskeys?
Seven Devils sets itself apart in the fact that, it's all aged here locally. It's here at the distillery. It's all 4 to 6 year stuff. It has a nice mash bill where it has more rye in it than a lot of traditional bourbons have. So it's got a little bit more spice to it, and then it's aged just a little bit longer than a lot of bourbon is.
So is Seven Devils Whiskey, is it a bourbon by the letter of the law, or is it an American whiskey?
It's a bourbon, because bourbon's got to be by law 51% corn minimum, new American oak barrel for at least 2 years. So that's what it would be classified as. So cool. American whiskey can be different kinds of mash bills and different ages and that kind of thing. But bourbon's got a very strict guidelines behind it of what you can and can't do.
Yep. Is there what sort of adjuncts do you use in it as well? So like Maker's Mark uses red grain or red corn or something like that. Anything you guys use special in yours?
No, it's mostly the high rye content is what makes it a little bit different than others. But a lot of bourbon has a lot of wheat in it, more corn.
Red wheat is what I meant to say.
Red wheat, malted barley, all kinds of stuff like that. So there's a lot of different mash bills that you can play with to make bourbon. The main thing is it's got to be at least 51% corn. So
are you a big whiskey guy? I know you like the brand.
Yeah, I like whiskey. The higher proof stuff I kind of like best, I guess, for some reason.
I was going to talk about that, because I'm in a lot of little whiskey groups, like on Facebook and in real life and stuff like that. And the thing that people keep coming back to that I'm not the biggest fan of, but I appreciate, is barrel proof. Mm-hmm. And you guys put out a barrel proof whiskey, or you have put out one. I don't know if it's the only one you've put out. What sort of thing are you looking for when you're making it? Because you have so many barrels in there. So you just pick like one barrel or 2 barrels and you make like the barrel proof one. What are you looking for when it comes to flavor, or when it comes to alcohol strength or whatever, when you're putting together that barrel proof whiskey?
The barrel proof whiskey, basically, in a nutshell, it's an 8-year bourbon. So it's aged, almost twice as long as the regular bourbon that we have is. Okay. And I always select barrels usually from the top of the barrel house, only because the barrels that are up higher is closer to the roof and it's warmer up there. So you get more evaporation, you get more heat up there in the summertime, which evaporates more, but it also leaves back better quality and more of it and more intense flavors. Mm-hmm. So I kind of select the barrels that way. I also use, we have one cooperage that we work with specifically in Kentucky that's called Kelvin Cooperage, and they're kind of a boutique, I guess you'd call it. They're not a massive factory, and they make probably, in my opinion, the best barrels for bourbon. They still wood fire the barrels when they make them. They're not using gas or anything. Awesome. And they're all still handmade at a factory that's been there since the early 60s. So they make top-notch barrels. So for the barrel proof, I try to select those barrels. Mm-hmm.
So what kind of flavors and what kind of characteristics are you looking for when you put together these barrel proof bourbons?
Basically, you're looking for the intense aromas, flavors. You get apricot, you get leather, you get kind of a tobacco aftertaste, and that's kind of what we strive for. And we use a barrel that's just charred a slightly bit more. There's different char levels that you can buy with barrels. Some are 3, some are 4. We usually use the number 4 chars for for the barrel proof.
So you came up with you or your team or whoever came up with the idea to do a barrel proof release. So you had to have thought that out 8 years ago, I guess, right?
Yeah, we still have barrels, continuously save barrels back for the barrel proof, and we've got some barrels that are actually, we have some down in the cellar that are going to be they'll be 10 years old next year. So maybe we'll come out with a 10-year product at some point.
That sounds awesome.
Yeah.
I know that you and your other barrel proof fiends will really love that. When I have barrel proof whiskey, I can appreciate the flavor, and I know that I can water it down a little bit to get some more flavors coaxed out of it. But for me, it just comes off as gasoline sometimes. Right. What am I doing wrong? What can I do better?
The best thing to do with barrel proof is to put it in a glass and let it aerate just a little bit. Let the air get to it, to oxygenate it a little bit, and that helps a lot. And it is very strong. It's 120 proof, 119 proof, depending on how it comes. And I always recommend, maybe put a splash of water or a little bit of ice into it, just to thin it down a little bit if you're not totally into drinking it neat and warm, which a lot of people don't, they don't care for. So I always put a little ice into it, honestly, myself.
Yeah.
But it's very strong. So but it has wonderful aromas. But letting it air helps too.
And anyone that's gonna come down on me for putting ice or putting water into my whiskey, I'll have you know that Jim Booker himself would he'd pour himself a giant glass of whiskey and sit on the porch with a watering can, and he'd water that thing down over the course of the day, wouldn't he?
Sure, and you know what? Everybody says, you can only drink whiskey this way, or you can only drink vodka that way. I always promote, say, you know what? Drink it how you like it. It's how you like it, not what the experts say, right? Yeah,
as long as it's Seven Devils, just drink it how you like it. And drink a lot of it.
As long as it's our products, drink it that way.
So Koenig you guys make the official whiskey of the Caldwell Night Rodeo, which just happened or is still happening?
It just ended last week, actually, Saturday. Okay. So it was last week.
So how did that relationship come about, and why make a big bourbon for the rodeo? You could have easily just slapped another label onto a Seven Devils bottle and called it good. So why, that's what Woodford does for the Kentucky Derby. So why go to all the trouble to actually put out a new bourbon for the Caldwell Night Rodeo?
So that relationship began actually with my neighbor up the street here, who was a board member on the rodeo, and he's always been a fan of ours and a big supporter. And at one point, their previous whiskey sponsor, their contract was up, and the rodeo board decided that they wanted to work with a local company. So obviously they came here because we're the only regional distillery around the Caldwell area. Mm-hmm. And they said, hey, let's talk about a partnership with the rodeo where Seven Devils becomes the official whiskey of the rodeo. And so anyway, the contract got signed. We came up with a product for them. We decided this year was 100 years of the Caldwell Night Rodeo, so they've been doing it since 1924. So they had a big celebration this year. So leading up to this, 3 years ago, we started making a 97, a 98, and a 99 proof. So every year, the proof increased by 1 point until it reached 100 this year. So this year it was 100 proof Caldwell Night Rodeo edition, which we kind of wanted to play it up for the 100th year of the rodeo. It's a big achievement for them, and to be a nonprofit for that long and in the community. So we wanted to play it up that way, and we made a special edition for them, which is now available in all the liquor stores. Yeah, and it'll be an item that you can get your hands on at any time now. So
you guys are just going to continually have the 100 proof out?
Yep, we're going to stay at 100 proof, only because, like the conversation we talked about earlier, when you get so strong, then it becomes something that a lot of people think is too hot or has too much alcohol. Yeah. And the 100 proof is a nice proof for real whiskey drinkers, but not something that's too extreme that people can't necessarily handle.
I caught that. I caught a stray on that one. Yes. I think real whiskey drinkers.
Real whiskey drinkers, yes. Or I should say,
sitting over here with my old fashioned. Yeah. That's funny. Well, that's cool. Yeah, 100 proof. I think actually for me, like when it comes to drinking whiskey, 100 is the number. So like everything up to 100 proof and inclusive, I can drink neat. Or I could drink with maybe 4 or 5 drops of water or whatever it is. After 100 proof is where I start. Like I recently just bought a bottle think it was, don't hate me, it was at like Costco. And they had like a barrel proof American whiskey. It was like a yellow label. It wasn't like a brand or anything.
Okay.
And it was 119 proof. And that to me was like pretty hot. Like that was a pretty hot. And it's like I blended it. I put some in. I infused some of it with orange peel and vanilla. And I have an infuser thing. I am a nerd. I am a geek about this. So I infused it with orange peel and vanilla, and it brought out some really interesting flavors, but it's still like pretty hot and everything. But 100 proof, I feel like maybe for even someone like me who's not like a more refined whiskey drinker, like that's like a good spot. You know what I mean? So I think that's, and also I feel like once you get like, for bourbon, to me, an 80 proof bourbon doesn't taste good. It tastes kind of thin and, it tastes like sweet, I guess.
Right.
So, I mean, I guess that makes sense to me. Like 100 proof seems like the right amount.
Yep. Yeah, it's a nice proof, and that's the thing. You're trying to get a balance between the flavors, the alcohol, and the corn. The corn brings the sweetness, the alcohol brings the heat, and the barrel brings obviously flavors and aromas to it. So you kind of try to find a balance there. And yeah, 100 proof's a great starting point, I guess.
There was another thing out there that I saw. You guys make a honey whiskey. Talk to me a little bit about that, how it came to be. And another thing that I'm noticing here, and we noticed it in the barrel room as well when we were touring, but there are so many bees out here, which I love. I'm a big fan of bees. I have a garden. I have a garden in the front of my house, a garden in the back. I have a lot of bees. So it's great to see. So tell me how the honey whiskey came about and what you guys are using for the honey portion of that whiskey.
So yeah, we decided we use bees here anyway in the springtime for pollinating all these orchards that we have around here, and there's always been honey whiskey out there that I've tried, but I wasn't a big fan of. A lot of those are just flavored products with flavorings and stuff. So I kind of wanted to develop something that was all local. So we took half of our Seven Devils bourbon, half Seven Devils rye, and then we use honey from our local beekeeper here that's on site, which we blended into the bourbon and the rye to make the honey whiskey. And what we do is we take the whole honeycombs with the honey and the comb in it and the wax and everything, and that macerates in the bourbon and rye for 6 weeks. Then we filter the wax and the impurities out of it, and that's basically what the product is. There's nothing else in it except for a little bit of water, obviously.
Yeah.
And so it's an all local, natural, real honey product, and it really has a nice aroma of beeswax and honey that is pretty unique. So
I'll say this: just looking at it in the bottle, it looks really nice. It's got a really pleasant golden color. It actually does look like honey.
Yeah, and that's the thing. A lot of them are colored or whatever. It's just the natural color, the honey and the bourbon. So
yeah, that's cool. That's a really neat product, I think. And it's interesting. You have an apiary here on site.
Yeah. So there's a beekeeper that comes, and he obviously, I don't know enough about bees. That's not my wheelhouse. But he comes and he has his bees just across the street here from the distillery, and the honey that comes off of it we use in the whiskey, and then he sells honey obviously too. So
that's awesome. That's really cool. A bunch of neighbors coming together to help each other make an awesome product. I love that. This show is sponsored by Boise Beer Buddies. When me and my friends are chopping it up at the local watering hole, say Green Apple Tap House, Twin Falls Sandwich Company, or Bert's Growler Garage, I'm always watching the bar to see what people are ordering and if they are carrying their Boise Beer Buddies card. Because if you do frequent pretty much any craft beer bar or brewery in and around Idaho, and you aren't using the Beer Buddies card, then we probably can't be friends. The Beer Buddies card doesn't just unlock amazing deals, like get this, $1 off your first beer at Bert's, 20% off your entire bill at Twin Falls Sandwich Company, or BOGO Tuesdays at Boise Brewing. It also unlocks an entire world of craft beerdom with the Boise Beer Buddies app by showing you other bars, restaurants, and breweries where you can be saving money and making new friends like me. Let's face it, you're already buying beer. Now be a buddy. Get your Boise Beer Buddies membership today at boisebeerbuddies.com, and as a special treat, use promo code BOOZEPOD, all one word, BOOZEPOD, and get a free year-long membership when you purchase one. That's a BOGO. promo code BOOZEPOD. Be a buddy. Sign up for Boise Beer Buddies today. Let's talk about the vodka. So you have a vodka line. It comes from potatoes. And you showed me the vessel out there. Now tell everybody how many potatoes you use to make, and I guess it's what, and then also what is like one mash of like how many bottles or how many cases or whatever. Okay. And just sort of walk us through the vodka process from when you get the potatoes to when you put it out as a vodka.
Right. So the potatoes, they're fermented obviously a little bit differently than fruit would be. It's, basically you're making a potato beer. So you're taking hot water, you're cooking potatoes in the hot water. You add enzymes which break the starch chains into sugar chains. And then you cool the mash down, you add yeast, and you ferment it. After it's fermented, it's distilled, like we talked about earlier, in the copper stills in there, and rectified up to 96.5% alcohol. After that, vodka doesn't have to be aged, so it gets proof down to 40%, 80 proof, and then it gets filtered lightly, and then it's ready for bottling. So that's a basic overview of how vodka is made.
30,000 pounds of potato go into the mash.
All right.
And now, is that like a whole truck? Is that 2 whole trucks? How many?
That's about trucks hold 20 tons roughly, so 2/3 of a truck roughly.
I'll tell you this. I go to Costco and buy a sack of potatoes, and it's 20 pounds.
Yes.
That's not quite there.
No. Yeah, it's basically 2/3 of a semi-truck is about the equivalent of what we distill at one time.
It's a lot of potatoes.
Yes. And, a bottle of potato vodka, it takes about 9 or 10 pounds to make a regular bottle of potato vodka.
Okay.
So potatoes are a little tougher to distill in the fact that they have more oil in them than corn does. And potatoes yield a lot less than corn does. That's why the majority of vodka made in the world is made from corn or grains.
Yeah.
They yield better, and corn is obviously cheaper than potatoes to buy as well. So potatoes cost more. But potatoes have when they're distilled, they have a nice oily kind of minerally consistency and a nice mouthfeel to them that the regular grain-based vodkas don't have. So potato vodka makes a great martini.
Does it?
Very good, yes.
Oh, I'm interested in that.
Yes.
And I was actually you just skipped right ahead to my next question.
Sorry.
I was going to say, which of your vodkas makes the best martini?
So the potato vodka makes a great martini. If you like a nice traditional shaken, not stirred, right, martini.
Well, you know what? I'm of two minds on it. I think they're two different. I now look at them as two different things. I think a shaken martini is nice. It's a different mouthfeel. It's a different sort of drinking experience. But a stirred martini, if you really want to taste the alcohol in there, the stirred martini is the way to go.
Yeah. So, but yeah, they all make good martinis. The huckleberry vodka and the peach vodka are different in the sense that they have more fruit to them because the potato vodka is soaked with huckleberries or peaches before they're distilled. So, they have more of an aroma. But if you're a hardcore martini drinker, probably the potato vodka.
Okay.
But the other vodkas make great other drinks. The huckleberry vodka makes a great huckleberry lemonade, which is a phenomenal summer product. The peach vodka makes a great cranberry Cosmo. So it just depends on what people like and what your favorite is, I guess.
What about the gin? Like, what if you're someone like me who likes a gin martini?
Gin martinis are really good, but I like traditional just gin and tonics with the gin we have.
And is your gin also made from the potato spirit?
It's potato and it's grain based, so it has some corn in it and other grains as well. But it has a little bit of lavender in it, and it doesn't have quite as much juniper like some of the other traditional London style dry gins have that are pretty juniper forward, so they're more astringent and kind of tougher to drink. This is a pretty easy drinking gin. It also has a lot of citrus in it.
Okay.
So it's more fruit forward, lavender forward.
We have a pretty good gin community here in Idaho for being so very far from England.
Right.
It's kind of weird that the gins that are made here in Idaho, I've found, are more on that floral side and less, like you're talking about, astringent or whatever. Why do you think that is?
I don't know. I think, the juniper forward gins, they're just tougher to drink and they're not as smooth. I mean, they're very aromatic and flavorful, but I think people like, the fruit forward kind of stuff and stuff that's a little less pungent, I guess you'd call it.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. I honestly haven't thought about it, but yeah, I like those kind of gins, so I'll have to check out. Man, I'm going to have a pretty hefty bill on the way out of here. So to talk about sort of like to stay on that same line with cocktails, which of your whiskeys do you think makes the best old fashioned?
I would probably say the Caldwell Night Rodeo edition, because it's 100 proof. But there's a lot of people out there that love making old fashions with the rye, because it's a little bit spicier, and it adds another layer of flavor to it. So
I could see that.
Yeah,
I think either one would be pretty good. And which one do you think would make the best Manhattan?
That I would use the regular Seven Devils bourbon for, probably.
A hotly discussed topic amongst Idaho adult beverage makers is huckleberries, because it is our state fruit, but they're super hard to get. So what is your huckleberry process, and was it difficult to get that vodka up and running?
Yes, it was very difficult to get it up and running. And that's the other thing that's interesting about like our huckleberry and our peach vodka. We use real huckleberries to flavor the vodka with. So what we do is we take the potato-based spirit that comes off of our still, and we soak fresh huckleberries in the potato distillate. And then after 6 weeks, obviously it's very aromatic and purple and colored and has, little fragments of huckleberries in them. We redistill that in our copper stills then, which makes it clear again. And that very, very intense distillate then gets added back into more potato spirits for the huckleberry vodka. So that's where I think we are a little bit different than other, producers of flavored vodkas. We actually use our own fruit, or not I shouldn't say our own fruit, because huckleberries grow in the wild.
Yep.
But we use real fruit to flavor them with.
So it seems to me that you might know something about farming. Maybe a little bit. You have a
Sometimes.
giant farm.
I try.
So why can't you make a huckleberry farm? Why can't we just plant huckleberries?
Well, if you could cultivate huckleberries, you'd have a lot of money.
Yeah.
They're they're impossible to cultivate for some reason, and they grow at certain elevations really well, but they don't grow well down here where, the elevation's too low, obviously, and it's too hot here. So you'd have to be in a high mountain range, and they've never really been able to propagate them successfully where they still taste the same as the wild ones do.
They just start tasting like blueberries.
Yeah, and that's what happens. They've tried to cultivate them, but then they kind of turn into a blueberry. So maybe that's where blueberries originated, is they started and huckleberries are kind of a wild blueberry, but they're much smaller and much more aromatic and much more intense.
Yeah.
And much harder to pick and all that kind of stuff.
So I'm originally from Washington. I went to high school though in Spokane, so I was in Coeur d'Alene. My first taste of Idaho was the Panhandle, Coeur d'Alene, and I've been huckleberry picking, and it's one of those things where it's a really nice, it's not like apple picking. Like you go apple picking, you get a little basket, you're out in the nice woods, and you're picking apples. This one, they give you bear mace, and they tell you you're probably going to see a bear.
Yeah.
Have you ever been huckleberry picking? Have you ever gone?
Yeah, once.
Yeah.
And that was enough.
Did they give you bear mace?
No, I went with some friends up by north of Riggins. We went up there, but it takes forever to pick enough to do anything. Fortunately, they're so flavorful that a little bit of them goes a long way. Especially once they're distilled, they become even more intense.
Yeah.
But picking huckleberries is not really my thing.
Yeah, it's a difficult thing. Yeah, especially now. I wouldn't want to do it today. I was very young when I did it last time, which was fine. So you guys source your huckleberries just like everything else. You source them from somewhere in the state, I imagine.
Yeah, a lot of them come from up in the Coeur d'Alene area or up north of Riggins or whoever has some at the time, kind of thing. So
if someone cracks open a bottle of Koenig huckleberry vodka, what would you like them to experience? Like, what would the aroma hit them first? Would it be like with some huckleberry products, the first thing you see is the color. Obviously with vodka, you're not going to see that very distinctive, to me at least, that purple color. You're going to I imagine the aroma is just going to hit you right in the nose.
Yeah, and that's, when you open the bottle, it has a very aromatic huckleberry smell, and it's basically, we tried to make it so when you were picking huckleberries, the one time I did it, you put your face into the bucket you were picking, and you smelled that aroma, and that's what we tried to duplicate when we formulated here. So.
And so with the distilling process, so you put the purple vodka or purple potato distillate stuff in there. So after it's done, I imagine there are some, in wine, I guess they call them lees or whatever. There's stuff left over in the copper vessel, right? Is it just like huckleberry husk?
It's basically the skins and the pulp are left over. And those all get used then along with all of our brandy mash and whatever is left from distilling potatoes. Those all end up out in our orchards. We use them as fertilizer. So we try to put everything back into the soil after we're done.
That's cool. And have you ever taken, again, this is just you and me talking, nobody else. Angela's here, but she's not going to say anything. Have you ever taken that huckleberry mash left over and then run it through the brandy?
No, so the reason is those haven't been fermented. So the huckleberries don't get fermented prior to making the vodka. And that's the big difference between vodka and brandy. The brandy's, the fruit is actually fermented with yeast. The huckleberries aren't fermented. They're just macerated in the potato spirits. So the huckleberries wouldn't ferment after they've been soaked because they have too much alcohol left in the
ironically
skins, and the yeast wouldn't survive in there. So that wouldn't work.
Any thought to trying to put the raw huckleberries into the brandy?
You could ferment and make like huckleberry brandy like we did with the raspberry and stuff. The problem is it would be prohibitively expensive. You'd be looking at probably $1,000 a bottle kind of thing by the time because they don't have a ton of sugar. They have a lot of aroma, but they don't have a lot of sugar, which converts to alcohol, and you wouldn't have very much. You'd need
for $375, $1,000.
I bet you'd need 300 pounds of huckleberries to make one little 375 bottle. So it would be it'd be pretty expensive.
So it would not be cost prohibitive. It would be cost prohibitive to do that.
Yes, I would think so.
I still think you should put it through your let the guys down in marketing or in accounting decide that. Because just for you and me talking here about stuff that would taste good, I think
it would taste great, but
that would be pretty awesome.
I don't think accounting would approve.
Would you? So your vodka is a potato vodka. So the first thing I think of when I think of potato vodka is Russian, right? So would you consider your vodka to be like a Russian style? I don't know if there even are different styles of vodka. Maybe you can tell me. I don't know.
And it's argued where where vodka actually originated. The Polish claim that they were the first vodka producers. Some Eastern Bloc countries claim they were. The Russians claim they were. So, Russian vodka, obviously they drink a lot of vodka in Russia, but as far as a style, it's neutral spirits, at the end of the day. So there's a lot of brands, but as far as differentiation of product, not so much probably. Okay.
I just thought it was interesting because it was a potato base, and it seems like something. So let's pretend it's the end of the day. You've had a long day, walking around, distilling stuff, doing whatever it is you do here in your day-to-day life. Mm-hmm. What is your go-to cocktail as soon as you get home or as soon as you come over to the tasting room, whatever it is?
It depends on what time of year it is. Like in the summertime, I like a good vodka tonic with the potato vodka. If it's a hot day out with a good lime, that's always good. In the wintertime when it's cold outside, a little bourbon with some hot tea is good, and a little honey or something like that.
Hot toddy. Yeah,
and our honey whiskey makes a great hot toddy. So
I bet it does.
Something like that, or and sometimes, to be honest, I like Mexican beer. I love Pacifico and Modelo, so I drink that too.
Those are pretty good.
Yes.
If Koenig Distillery had a signature cocktail, what do you think it would be?
I would say a Caldwell Night Rodeo Old Fashioned.
What do you put in the Caldwell Night Rodeo Old Fashioned?
So we work with Craft Lounge in Caldwell, and they're in Nampa. Have you ever heard of them? Craft Lounge, Brick 29 in Nampa.
Is that the one under Grant? Is it in the basement?
Yes.
Like Brick 29's
basement
up
Brick
on
29,
the
yep.
roof, and then the cocktail lounge is in the basement.
So we work with them closely, and they actually developed a old-fashioned syrup that they took one of our Seven Devils barrels and made a syrup for them, and they sell syrups, as a side business. So they have a specialty old-fashioned mix that's really awesome that goes great here and is actually available in our tasting room. So it's called house-made syrups.
So you go, okay, so let's just run through what the recipe would be then. So what are you talking about, 2 ounces of bourbon?
I think it's 2 ounces of bourbon and a half an ounce or an ounce of the old-fashioned syrup.
And that syrup is supposed to take the place of a simple and the bitters?
Yeah, it's a simple, and it has a lot of citrus in it and the bitters, yeah. But it's all in one, so it mixes nicely, and it's.
And then this is your drink. So do you mix it in the glass, or do you mix it in a shaker or in a stir cup?
I'm so lazy. I take a rocks glass, I put ice in it, pour the bourbon in, stir it with a spoon, and then add the syrup and stir it. So that's what I do. But
nice. And so about half an ounce to an ounce of the syrup, 2 ounces of the Caldwell Nights 100 proof bourbon.
Yep.
Orange, I imagine orange and cherry, or
I just garnish it with a little orange that I run around the rim.
Yep.
And squeeze it in there, and that's pretty.
And do you go single? Are you single rock or just ice?
Yeah, I don't have any single rocks at home, so just ice cubes. But single ones are good. They make a lot of those. They make really good cocktails at Craft Lounge where they use a single ice cube for that. They're old fashioned, and it's awesome. So I wish I had a single cube machine, but I do not.
You know what? We'll hook you up. We'll see if we can get someone to send you one from our many dozens of listeners. We'll see if we can get. Can we get the guy a rocks? Just like I just use like the plastic mold thing.
Oh yeah, those would work. Yeah, I could get one of those.
I don't know if you need a machine. I mean, it depends on how many old fashions you're having.
Yeah, I'll have to ask my wife if that's in the budget.
Well, yeah. Maybe for Christmas is right around the corner. So I know we all like our own stuff. We all like, and earlier you actually did mention you like some Mexican beers. But if you had to choose, which Idaho beer or wine would you sip on if there weren't any Koenig Distillery products available?
I like a lot of I like a lot of the local beers that are out there. I'm a big fan of lagers, though, only because of my Austrian heritage. Lagers and Pilsner style beers. I'm not a huge fan of the super hoppy ones, but I like all those just kind of lighter lager style beers. So, but there's so many good producers of beer in Idaho, so I wouldn't want to single any one of them out.
There you go. Very diplomatic. And finally, a new game that is going to sweep the nation. This is a game I'm very proud of because I came up with it this morning. And you've heard of F, Marry, Kill, right?
No.
That game where you would...
Oh, yeah. Yes.
F, Marry, Kill.
Oh. Yeah, I think I'll...
So this is shoot, sip, or mix.
Oh, okay. Shoot, sip, or mix. So you have to pick one of the things.
Mm-hmm. So I have three here for you, and you have to pick one to shoot, one to sip, and one to mix. Are you ready?
Okay.
This is going to be a lot of fun.
Mix. Okay.
Shoot,
right.
sip, or mix.
Okay.
Seven Devils Rye Whiskey, Koenig Potato Vodka, Apricot Brandy.
Okay.
Well, shoot, sip, or mix.
The apricot brandy is simple. That's definitely a sip because the nice aromas and whatever. The potato vodka would definitely mix into vodka tonic, and the shoot would, I guess, be the what was it, bourbon or rye?
The rye.
The rye, yeah, that's what that would be. But I don't know. I don't really shoot any of my products. I like to sip them. But if we have to choose, it's shoot. I guess
this is the game.
Okay, that's the game.
Nobody wants to, that's the game. So Very good. You played the game. Nice job. Andy Koenig from Koenig Distillery. You're the head distiller, and I guess probably the owner here as well.
Yeah, me in the bank.
You in the bank.
Or the owners.
Well, we'll have them on next time.
Okay.
Thank you so much for being on the pod with me today. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much for having me out here to your beautiful orchard and distillery. I really appreciate it. Is there anything that you guys are doing, anything you have coming up that you want to talk about?
Actually, we are. We have an exciting new project that we're working on, which is going to be released next in Q1. So
Ooh.
January. So we are launching a tequila brand here at the distillery. So we're going to have we've partnered with a distillery in Mexico because tequila has to be made in Mexico. And what we're doing is we're shipping 7 Devils barrels, bourbon barrels down to them, and they are aging, the reposados and the añejo whiskey for us, or tequila in our whiskey barrels, I should say. So we're going to have a neat little tequila brand here at the distillery.
Breaking news.
Yes.
That's awesome.
You're one of the first to find out. So
thank you so much for breaking that right here on the Idaho Booze Podcast. We're going to have a local tequila.
Yes.
I love it.
So we're super excited about it.
Tequila's very hot right now.
Yep.
People are really into it.
And we're working with a nice little artisan distillery down there that makes really top-notch quality products, and
all right,
we're super excited about it.
Well, I can't wait to try it. Well, you know what? In 6 months, Q1, as you like to say, we'll have to come back, try the tequila, and see how we like it right here on the podcast.
Yeah, we can do
see
another
how it comes
one.
out. That would be awesome. Well, thank you so much for being on the pod today. I really appreciate your time and your hospitality, Andy. Thanks again. Have a wonderful rest of your day.
Yes, thanks so much for having me, and thanks for coming out.
Oh, it's no problem. It's my pleasure. And so we're going to be right back here on the Idaho Booze Podcast. I am your host, Steve Kuntz. Coming up, we'll have Friday Night Pints. Friday Night Pints is brought to you by Idaho Brewers United. Did you hear? IBU is going digital with the new Idaho Brewers Trail app. It used to be a map, and now it's an app. Want to know if your favorite beer is on tap at your favorite brewery? Check the app. Want to earn points towards amazing prizes from local breweries? Check the app. Need to get that hot goss going on in the brewing industry? Check the app, people. Be the first on your block to have the app by signing up for the Idaho Brewers United Brew newsletter at idahobrewers.org. Go to idahobrewers.org, sign up for that newsletter today, and you'll soon be able to check the app. Welcome back. We are now deep into the Friday nights portion of the podcast. Wasn't that an awesome interview with Andy? Wasn't he great? I thought he was awesome. Great job, Andy. Thank you so much for being on the show. Thank you so much for sharing all that knowledge on distilling, the dark arts of distilling. I love that stuff. I hope you guys did too. I really do enjoy that kind of talk. I like hearing about the process. I like hearing about where it comes from, how he went to Austria as a kid and learned how to really appreciate those like subtle flavors in the brandy and in his other spirits as well. So nice job, Andy. Thank you so much, Koenig, for being on the show. Here we go. I'm going to review actually a couple of his spirits, as it were. So we'll see how my taste buds react to the Seven Devils Caldwell Night Rodeo Bourbon. First of all, it's a good-looking bourbon with a dark brown sugar base color, highlights of amber. The nose, very pleasant. Caramel, leather, tobacco, toffee, vanilla, oak and vanilla kind of go back and forth with a touch of char. That all comes right through on the nose. First sip is nice, not super hot. Only 100 proof on this one, so not super overproof. All those deep, dark flavors coming through with a touch of vanilla. And throw a chunk of ice in there, you get more of that orange spice, probably from that rye. Toffee, tobacco, caramel, and more vanilla and oak. It's a nice bourbon to sip, and I'm sure, like Andy says, it will make an amazing old-fashioned. This is 100 proof, found at the state liquor stores. You can buy that, I think, pretty much anywhere. Then the other thing I tried from Koenig was the plum brandy. This looks like neutral spirit in the glass, but once you open that bottle up, the aroma tells a different story. You get plum skins, honeysuckle, touch of red wine, and more than a whiff of booze. It's, I'll tell you right now, it's got kind of a boozy nose on it, which, not bad with the plum and everything else on there. First sip, nice, as the plum flavor comes right through on the front with a bit of alcohol to finish it off. Then as you let it kind of aerate in the glass, the flavors develop, and you start to get the floral quality of the brandy along with sort of a lingering plum finish. It's also got a nice warming quality to it. I can see how it would be nice after a meal or maybe on a cold night, something like that. So a very pleasant experience throughout. Thank you, Andy, for the plum brandy recommendation, the recommend. And you can find that in the state liquor stores as well. Now, on to some beers. We are starting to see some Oktoberfests in the market. I found, 4 or 5 of them in the market this week. And I'm going to review the local ones I found here. And then I'll have the other ones on my column over on the Friday Night Pints column on my Substack that you can subscribe to for free. So you can go over there and check that out. First one I tried was the Sockeye Socktoberfest. I like this beer. It pours burnt orange. kind of the color of a fallen leaf with a fluffy white head. You get toasted nuts, caramel, fresh grass, bit of campfire on the nose, great carbonation, big bubbles. Flavors of fall abound with this one. You get those toasty malts, almonds, caramel, lemon, grassy hops, finish it off nicely. Nice bit of alcohol too at over 6%, so 6.5%, found in 6-packs all over town. That's the Socktoberfest from Sockeye, their yearly Oktoberfest beer. Then we have Mother Earth with their Oktoberfest. This one is, I would call, traditional as hell. Brewed with floor malted grains from Germany. Straight up Wireman, baby. Awesome can art with traditional banners of yellow and blue. Pours orange with a white head that sticks nicely to the glass. Toasted nuts, honey, lemon zest, grass on the nose. Very traditional Oktoberfest Marzen. There's a little bit of graham cracker in there as well. And those flavors come through on the palate with a clean, light finish. Really nice. Just like this Oktoberfest may be a little heavier. This one, a really nice light version of an Oktoberfest. And glad I have both of them in the fridge because they both kind of offer something different. So that's 5%, 24 IBU, found in 6-packs and on tap all over town. So make sure to check those Oktoberfests out if you see them. We love to get the Oktoberfest. Love to extend or see the extension of the Oktoberfest season. Greg and I kind of talked about it, but this part of the year is really stupid for distributors and for brewers alike, because you got to get your Oktoberfest out, which some brewers, they brew them in March. That's why it's called a Marzen. They're usually brewed in March and then released right about now for the harvest. And you have to get out your fresh hop, and you got to get out pumpkin beer, and you got to get out all this other crap. So kudos to everybody getting their Oktoberfest out here in the last couple of weeks of August so we can enjoy them before we're inundated with pumpkin beers. The next beer I tried, we went to Burt's, had the Juke Joint West Coast style Pilsner, and really happy to try this one. Robert is going to be on the show pretty soon, a couple weeks, I think. This one pours pale yellow with a thin white head. It's got lots of hops on the nose. Woof, think like lemon, lime, tropical fruit aromas, all floating up out of this beer. If you're familiar, it's got a Pivo Pils kind of vibe for sure, where it's got a really nice fragrant bouquet, and it looks awesome in the glass. And it doesn't drink though as hoppy as it is on the nose, with the lemon tropical fruits coming through on the palate with a touch of crackery malt. Finish clean and crisp, 5%, 25 IBU on tap at Burt's Brewing. So there you have it. That is Friday Night Pints. For some more beer reviews, including those Oktoberfests I found out there in the wild, please go to idahobooze.substack.com. Check out my Friday Night Pints column. I'm also going to have the latest robot series from Lost Grove on there. And I stopped by White Dog Brewing to try one of their beers. And so those will all be up on the Friday Night Pints column. Check that out as we try to put that out with the podcast every week. It's a free subscription, so just hammer that sub button and you'll get it every single week. What a deal. That's it for the show. I want to thank Andy Koenig from Koenig Distillery for being on today, showing me around his lovely orchard and distillery. Really nice out there. I highly recommend getting out there. And for bringing a little class and sophistication to our valley with his wonderful array of brandy, vodkas, and whiskeys. I hope you enjoyed that interview as much as I did. Also want to thank Boise Beer Buddies, IBU, and Like Button for sponsoring today's pod. Head over to boisebeerbuddies.com. Use promo code BOOZEPOD, all one word. Get a BOGO on Beer Buddies cards. Do that right now. You can find a link to them in show notes as well. And finally, I want to thank all of you for listening, sharing, and helping get this podcast off the ground. Without your ears, there would be no reason to pod. So thanks a ton. I will see you all next week, where my guest will be. Oh, geez, I am nervous about this one. This is a big one, guys. This is between you and me. This is a big one. Okay. Earl Sullivan from Taleo Wines is coming on to talk all things vino. This is going to be a test for your boy. We'll talk grapes. We'll talk atmosphere. We'll talk leads. We'll talk soil. Whole thing. Whew, I'm nervous. I gotta tell you, my wine game, not as strong as it should be. So hopefully Earl will be able to learn me up. All that plus brew news and Friday Night Pints on next week's show. This has been another episode of the Idaho Booze Podcast. I'm your host, Steve Kuntz. Good day and good drinking, everyone.